And welcome back. Today is the last day, and I have already submitted the project to the Shovel Jam. So we might as well look at the final project with everything in it. So to start off, when loading the project, we're going to have our player and the music in the background. Our player is just the door icon. There's a bit of color. Not a ton in also introduction. Buttons. They have had an emergency. No art. Three sound So that's that. When it comes to actually what happened with the coding, the music was pretty simple. It just needs an audio stream player that goes into the project settings as a global scene. Then for the audio of not the spring, because that doesn't have audio, I do like the spring because it actually feels like there's a spring image almost here at the bottom. Gradients. Gradients are neat. So the gradient for this was just white, gray, white, gray. some darker versions of it. So, and then we also use a gradient for just solid colors as well, because apparently there's no just default solid color option. The player has multiple sprites, enough to just make a character shape, and try to make sure that they would fit within the bounds of the collision shape for the most part, but not too far out. The interact area is bigger than the player, because of course it needs to be. Then additionally, the door and the button both have sound. So they got an audio stream player 2D, which essentially makes it the audio the same thing. It's the same thing as the audio stream player, but this one has the effect to be changed by a distance and how far the button is pressed. So if I'm 2,000 pixels away, I will not hear the sound. And for making the sound actually work, we have a variable that just plays when the button is pressed one time. And then there's something similar for the door. And here we've got play for when the button is toggled. We also have changing the color of the mod by not the color, changing the modulate for changing the color of the door when it's on and off. So when it is off, it would be a bit darker. So kind of like that. Is what happens. And then additionally, the only other thing that has sound as part of the tile map sets, switch block. So switch block, I was able to do both, but I decided to go with this color. Don't know why. I was running out of time and wanted it to look different. So it's got this color, and it's got another stream player. It's got essentially the same thing as the door, a little bit different order, but still. And it's done on the timer. I also affected the attenuation and max distance so that it wasn't being played from very far away, because that just didn't seem like it would make a ton of sense if the player wasn't near it. Alright, yeah, so that was the game. We submitted to the Shovel Jam project, Game Dev project, Game Jam. Um, Not a whole lot that changed between yesterday and today, other than things got color so that they can be seen. Because if I go to the 2D, all of these collision shapes that you see around everything don't actually show up anywhere when you export the project. And speaking of export, to export a project, you have to go to export here. Then you can export to the platform you want by adding the platform you are gonna export to. And then you can choose the path here. I don't know what most of this stuff is. Additionally, when I needed to export to Linux, I had an error that required me to download or update something. And then you can press export as this, which gives you a non-playable build. Or you can export as a project and have a playable build, which is this one you'd want to export for just the game jam, or just anyone to play. The export all options are for having more than one thing. Yeah, so Mac OS is this stuff, which I don't know what that means. But I'm not using a Mac because I am a Linux user. It's just how it is that I decided to do that. Alright, so that's the game. And tomorrow we'll be returning to developing the fighting game. But in working on this project, Some useful things we learned that we could use for the fighting game Metroidvania hybrid is moving platforms, interactable buttons that are using signals to interact with doors. Springs I learned in my first project that I already did. Platforms that switch back and forth already did, and tile maps I've already learned how to do in the first project as well. I also do not like any of the code in this project because it's all rushed and not organized and not thought through at all. But it is a project, and it is done. Alright, I will see you tomorrow. And remember, I should remind you that the music and sound effects was made by R3's Cream, or R-Scream, I think is how they would want it to be pronounced. I don't know. But it's spelled R3, as in the number 3, and then CREAM. They were one of the people who helped for the project. Alright, I'm gonna fix the settings and use the desktop audio, then go to sleep.